Good morning, my fellow yogic travelers. Mighty glad to be alive today, and I hope that you are too, as we continue to live, laugh, love, learn, linger, and live the life we love. It's Friday, so it means it's PowerPoint presentation day. I used to do these from 1985 to 2018 to share the Dharma in as many metaphors as possible, so that if you weren't studying Indian philosophy, Hinduism, Taoism, Buddhism, Sufism, or whatever it is that's east of Suez, there's still the metaphors in our own country, Eurocentric, as well as around the rest of the world, to give us the same insight into what Joseph Campbell called the hero journey. Separate yourself from what you know, go down to the zone of magnified power and do your tests and trials, and come back, reincorporate yourself to your society, bringing back the boon that you got. So my first slide is no cosmos, no apple pie. You know, one of the problems in the modern world is no one feels like there's any center. Even though the Corpus Hermeticum from the 11th century said God is an intelligible sphere whose center is everywhere and whose circumference is nowhere. So to have the most common thing, no big whoop like an apple pie, well, first you have to have apples, of course, and then you have to have people who recognize apples are a food you can eat, but you also have to be able to mill grain. You have to also learn how to have a leavening agent. You have to learn how to have fire to bake it. And to have any of those things, of course, you have to have a planet, which makes those things, and people who can figure out that stuff. But again, the planet doesn't just appear out of nowhere. The planet is part of what we would call our local solar system. But even our local solar system is not in a vacuum and existing by itself. It's connected to part of what we call the Milky Way galaxy. And even that galaxy is not by itself, but by millions and millions of stars and galaxies. It's unbelievable. And yet without all of that, you can't have the thing that's the commonplace. And as I like to say, if you can't find what's extraordinary in the extraordinary, you'll never be a mystic. So no cosmos, no apple pie. And when we're practicing yoga, the whole idea is about the illumination of consciousness. What do we mean by the word wisdom? Usually we mean something superior to knowledge, something deeper. In the spiritual world, the word wisdom is not used that way. Here, wisdom means light, illumining light, transforming light. That which illumines our unit of consciousness is wisdom. That which transforms the finite consciousness into the infinite consciousness is called wisdom. So what is consciousness? That which illumines. Now, since samadhi is an experience, at the end of the eightfold path of yoga is the various levels of samadhi. All I can tell you is a metaphor that gets you into the silence momentarily, where you stop your mind and you're not thinking. Just like a pitcher gurgling with water until it's filled, what happens? It goes glub, 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 glub. Or a bee buzzing around the flower until it starts sipping the nectar. Bzz, bzz, bzz. Or the ghee sizzling in the pan till all the fat is burned out of it. Notice what happened in that one moment of silence before the next thing entered in. That's samadhi. Now, to understand what neuroplasticity is all about, you have to break down the word attention density. There's chemical circuits that create each person's mind, continuously focusing and paying particular attention to thought or activity strengthens the related circuitry and makes physical changes in the brain. You can train your mind and change your brain. So when you have concentrated and consistent attention to all the issues around the subject, that's called attention density. And then you're not only just learning, you're growing. And that's where you can have a major shift in your whole focus of what's going on. And that's exactly what yoga asks you to do. It has behavioral, cognitive, emotional, and spiritual aspects of it. The behavioral is the action of karma. The cognitive is the intellectual understanding and analysis of jnana. The emotional is the devotional heart space of bhakti. And the spiritual is the Raja Yoga that has the contemplative overview, that is the instrument that connects them all, directs them, guides them, and ultimately gives you the realization into the big picture. Now, how do you sharpen your skills, right? How do you keep yourself at that current edge? Well, according to yoga, you cultivate the four abodes of Brahma, called the Brahma Vihara, by cultivating the attitudes of friendliness toward the happy, compassion for the unhappy, delight in the virtuous, and disregard for the wicked. The mind stuff retains its undisturbed calmness. And that's how you live in that world that's like the godlike world. Now, you have to take responsibility at some point in yoga to understand that various illnesses happen because of either neglect and abuse. We do it to ourselves by not paying attention or making choices that don't serve us. By genetics, we're predisposed by our DNA to have certain conditions or gradients that lean us toward that way. And then the imbalance of the elements. We don't work well with water, air, fire, and earth, and space. And so like getting dehydrated or eating too much food, right? Or having anger issues. So your pitta, your fire is always flaring up. Those things bring different kinds of pains in your life. And yoga is supposed to be the disconnection to the connection to your own suffering. Now, the effects of yoga depends on your motivation. Everyone starts off with what they call bahiranga sadhana, where it's all outer. How can I move the form, do a better presentation of the asana? But then it becomes antaranga sadhana. You realize it's all about my mental state, that working the body changes the way my thought forms are, my consciousness. And then ultimately, I go deeper than that, and the whole purpose of yoga is not just to have body beautiful or be healthy or stave off aging, it's to have an experience of the soul, the depth part of myself that takes from the no thing to the thing. So I got to warn you here, the mirror may be distorted by socially constructed ideas of beauty. The first ego image is a body image always. All spiritual practices need a body, and the body is the temple. Like my teacher says, my body is the temple, my asanas are my prayers. So watch out how you define yourself when you look at yourself, and don't let anybody tell you what your body's supposed to look like or should look like. And then you realize that the different modes of nature are always working. The body is the tamasic nature, which seems to be grounded in kind of heaviness. The mind is the kinetic, rajasic nature, moving all the time, always exploring, curious, investigative. And then the soul is the sattvic nature, the part of you that is pure, the part of you that is in some way not even involved in earth life because it has a different home elsewhere. Now, all of yoga is to try to make Atman and Brahman a equal sign. Consciousness seems to be ours while it's embodied, but it's actually not ours. It's really like lent to us. Like the rays of the sun seem to be different in different windows in the house, but if you trace the rays back to their source, they all get annihilated in the sun. So the consciousness that seems to be the one that our ego identifies with is actually consciousness, free of content, no identification with the personality. We're just using it for a time being. And of course, when you discover that, you find jyoti, or light, back to that illuminating aspect. Now, are you living in Kronos, which is mere temporal passing of time, the locus of deterioration, everything changes? Or are you in Kairos, the right moment, the opportune moment, where all of a sudden something is about to happen, you can sense it, you put yourself in a position where you could enter into sacred space, and then you can receive that as a gift of the more abundance that you have. Like JC said, I come to give you life more abundant. So you move out of Kairos, or mere time, into Chronos, mere time, into Kairos, where the moment is auspicious for something to happen. And then you got to decide, you got to make yourself ready, like you're a green nut, you come before the teacher, even if the teacher smashes you with the hammer of the discipline, it slides off because you're not ready and out of control. But if you're ripe, the teacher doesn't need a hammer. Just give you a little flick of the finger, and all of a sudden the shell opens up and the teacher swallows the meat, and you're done. So remember, we all have 4 different capacities, and this is both male and female, king and queen, who say, I rule, male and female, magician or wise person who says, I know, male and female, actor, the warrior, who says, I do, and then the male and female lover, who say, I feel. So know which part of your psyche needs to be connected to and integrated, and then you have a very good idea about the way to go. And in the end, leads us back to the theme of today, and this will be the theme next week, which is relationship is the yoga of the West. And I hope that you find a relationship for yourself that takes you deep into where you want to go. Have a great day.